Daniel Carter stands on a high point overlooking his enormous 3,500-acre farm. Crop fields stretch toward a blue mountain lake, while forests and mountains fill the horizon. He holds the original property documents, proud of the land that has been in his family for years. Old frame photographs inside the farmhouse show Daniel's family working the land decades earlier. Daniel studies the photographs before looking through the original deed records. Everything tells the same story. The farm has always been part of his family's property. Daniel notices construction equipment operating near the far edge of his property. A new road and several foundations have appeared where no permission was ever granted. He drives toward the construction area to find out who authorized the work. Daniel discovers dozens of newly built homes along a section of his farmland. An HOA entrance sign stands beside the road, as if the neighborhood has always belonged there. Daniel is stunned because he never authorized a subdivision. Daniel sees multiple real estate signs throughout the property claiming sections of his farm have been sold. He walks between the signs, carefully photographing each one. His expression changes from confusion to determination. Karen Whitmore drives on the farm in an expensive SUV and approaches Daniel confidently. She tells him the land has already been incorporated into the community's development plans. Daniel calmly asks her to show him the authority allowing the sale. Karen points toward the new subdivision and claims the HOA handled the property sale. Daniel looks at her in disbelief and asks how an association could sell land it did not own. Karen responds confidently that the matter has already been settled. Daniel returns to his farmhouse and spreads the original deed, survey, and property map across a large wooden table. The legal boundary clearly encompasses the land where the HOA homes were constructed. He realizes the problem is much larger than he first thought. Daniel calls Michael Reed, his property attorney, and explains what happened. Michael asks him to preserve every document, photograph, and communication connected to the development. Daniel begins organizing a complete evidence file. A licensed land surveyor walks the farm with Daniel and examines official boundary markers. The survey confirms that the disputed development lies within Daniel's recorded property boundaries. Daniel looks toward the HOA homes in the distance, realizing the evidence is finally clear. Karen returns with several HOA representatives and insists the development is legitimate. She says homeowners have already purchased their properties through the association's arrangements. Daniel tells her the paperwork will have to be examined through the proper legal process. Karen produces copies of development agreements and old association documents. Daniel's attorney carefully examines them and notices that none of them transfer ownership of Daniel's farm. The dispute suddenly becomes much more serious. Michael conducts a formal title review and compares the HOA's paperwork against the recorded property title. The official records continue to identify Daniel's ownership of the disputed land. Daniel watches as his attorney explains the findings. Daniel and Michael prepare a formal legal case challenging the unauthorized land transaction. Stacks of surveys, deeds, correspondence, and photographs cover the conference table. Daniel remains calm because every piece of evidence traces back to the same property records. Daniel stands beside Michael inside an American courtroom, while the opposing side sits across the room. The judge reviews the property documents carefully. Karen watches nervously as the evidence is presented. Michael presents the original deed and certified survey showing the full 3,500-acre boundary. The judge studies the documents while the courtroom becomes completely quiet. Daniel watches without showing emotion. The judge compares the HOA's documents with the official property records. The conflicting boundaries become obvious. Karen's confident expression disappears as the legal foundation of the HOA's claim begins to collapse. The court determines that the HOA could not transfer ownership of land it did not own or control. Daniel's property rights over the disputed land are recognized through the legal process. Karen sits silently as the ruling changes everything. Daniel does not blame the individual homeowners who purchased homes believing the transactions were legitimate. He and his attorney explain the court decision and the property situation to the residents. The homeowners listen anxiously as they learn the complicated history. Daniel reviews the court documents and available legal options with Michael. Instead of causing chaos, they create a lawful plan for dealing with the properties now under Daniel's recognized ownership. Every step is documented and handled through proper legal channels. Following the court process, Daniel's legal team begins handling the affected properties according to final ownership and court-approved arrangements. Professional real estate agents and attorneys prepare documents for lawful property transactions. The process is orderly and transparent. A homeowner completes a lawful real estate transaction involving one of the disputed properties. Daniel stands nearby with his attorney while the paperwork is finalized. The atmosphere is professional rather than confrontational. Additional properties are handled through lawful real estate transactions. Residents who choose to sell complete the process through licensed professionals. Daniel's goal is to resolve the property mess legally rather than personally punish the homeowners. The HOA clubhouse is quiet as the association's previous control over the disputed land disappears. Karen looks through old files and realizes a strategy she once considered unstoppable has failed. Daniel's legal team continues documenting every remaining property transaction. Daniel stands beside the original farm boundary, overlooking the enormous fields. The unauthorized development no longer defines a property dispute. He looks across the land with relief, knowing the legal process protected his ownership. Tractors move through the fields while workers harvest crops across the enormous property. Daniel watches from beside the farmhouse as normal agricultural operations continue. The land once threatened by the dispute is productive again. Karen drives past the farm and sees a restored agricultural land stretching toward the mountains. The old HOA plans no longer dominate the landscape. She watches silently from her vehicle before driving away. Back inside the farmhouse, Daniel places the original deed, court ruling, and certified survey into a secure document cabinet. He closes the cabinet and looks toward the window overlooking the farm. The legal battle is finally behind him. Daniel stands outside the farmhouse as the sun sets behind the mountain range. The fields, lake, and barns glow beneath the orange evening sky. He looks across the property with the quiet satisfaction of someone who protected his land through the legal system. Daniel stands confidently at the entrance of his farm, holding the certified property documents. Behind him, the enormous farm stretches toward the lake and mountains, representing everything he fought to protect. If you enjoyed this HOA showdown, like thumbs up and subscribe bell for more unbelievable HOA stories. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from?